Okay. Did you get a message that it's recording, Amir?
It is recording.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get going. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching our meetup from. Welcome to another Parcel Fabric meetup. Today we're going to do COGO Reader, a deep dive. Next, Amir. Just want to start off with a few product notes. One, if I saw you guys out at the user conference last week, it was good seeing you. Always great chatting with everybody. I saw a couple names that I recognized in the meeting, so it was good seeing everybody out there. Today, general availability, meaning software that is available today that's not in mature support, is 3.3 and 11.3. 3.4, 11.4, and 3.5, 11.5. 3.5, 11.5 being the latest release out right now. Hit enter, Amir. The next release is going to be 3.6 and Enterprise 12.0. Something to prepare for when we go to 12.0. The reason it's going to 12.0 is you're not going to have Web App Builder. That's no longer going to be there. Any configurable apps, that will no longer be there. The Map Viewer Classic, that will not be there. So 12.0 is going to be, I don't want to call it breaking changes, but it is going to be a major change because it's going to be a change in, I believe, the version of Java that's being used, and therefore a lot of these apps aren't going to be there. Enter again, Amir. 3.5 is the last release to support Enterprise 10.9.1. So if you're thinking about, where you are in your enterprise stack and what version you're on, please be aware that 3.5 will be the last one to support 10.9.1. So think about upgrading. And then one more, Amir. And 3.6, the minimum supported version, will be Enterprise 11.2. Right? So just be aware that those are going to be the minimum versions you must have on your enterprise to support the Parcel Fabric as we keep going with the releases of Pro. Next slide, Amir. Just want to say, stay connected. Today, y'all are here with the meetups, so you're already part of the Parcel Fabric meetup and was notified. But also know that there is the Assessors and GIS meetup where they start talking more about the valuation and the apps that you would use to engage with your constituents. Next one, Amir.
It takes a while, so
Yep.
just Yep.
So go ahead and just hit enter a couple times because today we're doing the COGO Reader deep dive. We got 3 coming in August. We're going to do the record-driven workflows. We're going to do migrating and administrating parcels. And we're also going to do quality-driven workflows. And then in September, we're going to do a bring your own data, session 1 and session 2. This is going to be where you come and we'll have a meetup. You can come with some issues that you're having, some problems, and then we can go into breakout rooms and we can start looking at your individual issue, or we can do it, with everybody because other people may benefit from it.
Yeah, and the idea then there is that you bring your own data, and we are going to walk you step by step, full data migration, how to migrate your data. That will be session 1, and session 2 will be how to deploy it, how to configure your map, and so on. So, and then, like you said, if somebody has a specific question about the information modeling or a specific attribute, we can always have breakout rooms to support them individually. In the end of those 2 sessions, everybody should have their Parcel Fabrics fully migrated and deployed, probably a sample data set.
It's all yours, Amir.
Thank you, Dan. So today, many of you have asked about COGO Reader again and again. So instead of doing individual demos for individual people, we decided to just do it for everybody. So today, somebody's
I just muted everybody. But I probably muted you as well, Amir.
Yes, thank you. I said thank you, Dan, for muting everybody, and then realized I'm also muted. So today we're going to go over how to use COGO Reader to read deeds, how to review the extracted dimensions and misclose, how to fix failed OCR and improve the COGO extraction, how to use the traverse for deeds that were partially extracted, how to create a Parcel Fabric in 5 minutes. For all of those on this meeting that are not in the Parcel Fabric yet and think it's very hard to do. And then we'll talk about how you can provide feedback where we are going to go with COGO Reader going forward and some Q&A time. So next slide. When we talk about the areas in COGO Reader, you'll see 3 areas. On the left, you'll see the source document. That's the deed. It will usually come either as a PDF or as a scanned image. So we support all the image formats out there. I think most of them, the common ones, TIFF, JPEG, and so on. In the middle, you'll see the extracted text. That's the area where you can review the extracted text, and you can also edit that text. So if something didn't work well, you can actually modify that piece. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the extracted COGO dimensions that we extracted from the extracted text. And on the bottom, you'll also see a preview area and the misclose just above it. So that's kind of the terms we'll use when we go forward here. The process is exactly as the UI. So when we read a deed, we then, the process will extract the text from it. And then we'll have another process that will extract the COGO from the extracted text. And then we can generate a preview from those extracted COGO measurements. Of course, if the first process fails to extract text properly, then don't expect the other pieces to play nice. We might use the term OCR. OCR stands for optical character recognition. What OCR does is extract the text from scanned deeds. Some PDFs, as you know, have text in them that you can actually copy paste, but because most of the deeds are signed and stamped, they are being scanned as an image. And then we have to use OCR on those in order to extract the text. The quality and the success of OCR depends highly on the scan quality. We measure that usually in DPIs, but as most of you, I think all of you know better than me, some older scans in the older times of older documents, their scan quality might not be as we would expect it to be today. Even maybe a phone can do a better job nowadays than those old scanners. There's also sometimes many artifacts in the documents that can cause OCR issues. Sometimes we see black outline like a borderline. We see watermarks. Some cause more pain than others. We see stamps. We see coffee stains. We sometimes see orientation. The document is sideways and so on. The font and the style can also influence the OCR success. So there's many factors that contribute to the OCR process. Many times, COGO Reader will fail in the OCR process. So that's where you'll see one document work fine, and you can review the text that's being generated. We'll do that soon, and you'll see some of it worked better than others. So what was one of the things that were important for us when we designed COGO Reader was to always have human in the loop. We've been doing also experiments with AI and so on. And we saw that many times the process becomes this black box that always gives you an answer, but sometimes it hallucinates and gives you the wrong answer. So it was important for us to have a human in the loop that can review the text that's being extracted and being able to also modify that extracted text. And from there have the logic that extracts the COGO dimensions to generate the geometries we basically after. And also the ability to, of course, review it, the misclose in the preview before you decide that it's good enough to go into the map. We also believe that it's sometimes will yield partial results. Maybe it's because you have a complicated deed that has exceptions or some complicated language that's not common. But maybe it did 90%. It did 90% properly. You still want to keep that 90% and continue from there. So being able to have a human in the loop to do the quality assurance and then decide what's good, what's bad, that was important for us during the design process. We've also started to get a lot of requests from other countries. Can you please? So we have to kind of put a big disclaimer for all of if there's anyone on the line from another country, sorry, the COGO Reader is designed to support US deeds. Even if you're in Canada and you use English, we didn't design it for that. So sorry, US, domestic first. The second thing, we only support it in English. So if you have deeds written in Spanish, French, from the 1700s, and so on, German, I don't know what languages might be out there. We don't go after those. English. Does not support cursive handwritten deeds. You can try, but the OCR engine we've seen so far doesn't do such a good job, and cursive can get very tricky. So we just decided for now not to even try. Does not support complex deeds. So if there's a lot of deeds that have exceptions or inferring dimensions that you need to calculate yourself, like a radius minus the road width and so on, everything except the northern so and so feet, we don't support those yet. Maybe we will if we'll find that they are important enough to put the extra effort, but we think right now it's like the Pareto 80-20 rule. The last 20% might take 80% of the effort, so we're going after the majority first. Does not support PLSS, Public Land Survey System, descriptions for all of you west of the Mississippi. We might support those in the future, but then it becomes which PLSS should we support, right? We want, either we have to tell the system what a township section, quarter section is, and that might be implemented differently in different counties, or we'll need to rely on some federal service data, and that might not be necessarily, that section corner coming from that location might not be necessarily, for example, match the location of where your section corner is. So you can see that that can create some issues. And it does not support plats. That's another question we've been getting. Can it read scanned plats, scanned maps? Well, if the plat itself has a legal deed language, a meets and bounds description, then it will work. But we do not extract vectors yet from plats. It's something we are looking into as more R&D in this phase. But COGO Reader is not intended for that. And if we start reading plats, we will probably have a different tool for that, not COGO Reader. So let's see demos and stop talking. My current machine, you can see it's even slow with PowerPoint. It's about to die. So I'm going to use a remote machine that is more reliable, but it sits on the other side of the world. So I have a few different examples here. We'll start with a smooth sailing one. The smooth sailing one has a few deeds that show different use cases. So I'm just going to go for one of those. I think I'm in the first demo will be this one, and I know which control point. So 009, I think I'm on the right place. And we want to basically get this deed here. I'm going to right click and copy as path and just open COGO Reader. So one thing you'll see is that COGO Reader works best if you have two screens or more. So a dual screen, so I'll put COGO Reader on one screen and my map on the other. That is a bit harder now to do. And the first thing I did is hit the open button, and that opens the browser, and I can either navigate to the location or paste the path, and it will immediately open the PDF or the image. In this case, it's a TIFF. I can see up here the name of the TIFF file. So you can always see which file you just opened. And then it will start extracting text. The text is extracted, like we said, in the middle. And then once the text is extracted, we'll extract the COGO and place it over here. We can see that there's only one parcel in this deed. We can see that the point of beginning has not been set. There's a message here. This deed does not contain any connection lines, so no description between the commencement point to the point of beginning. And I'm already immediately set on my first course. So maybe that's part of Exhibit A, Annex A, and so on. So I'll always land on the right first course. And if I want to examine the three, right? So I want to see if we did a good job. I can use my control key if I wanted to change the control in a wheel, or I can use those buttons to zoom in, zoom out, or set it to width, next page, previous page, some basic navigation. But as I shift here between the dimensions, you can see that it highlights the source document. So I can see if we did a good job first on the OCR process. So basically, does the middle text language matches the left? And I can already tell you I did a good job because I already picked down here and I saw that the misclose was acceptable, right? 0.11 feet. And there's many courses here. You'll see there's 35 courses, including curves. I can examine the curves as well. So we can examine here a curve. And another thing you've probably noticed that we color code things differently. So direction is blue here and distance is kind of purplish. But if you have a curve, there's going to be something more orangey yellowy. So that also helps you to identify what was extracted. And there's a preview here. I'm going to show a bit how to do better with this preview, but I'm going to minimize the screen for a second and place it somewhere that doesn't obstruct our data. And I'm going to create a new record here. Actually, this record has already been entered, so I can cheat and select one of the parcels and activate it from the selected feature. So now it's activated. You know what? Let me do a new one so I can use the show only active record. So I'm just going to create a temporary now. The name doesn't matter, but it will help us filter everything out except the data we are going to add. The point of beginning is described here, actually correlates to this control point that is over here. So what we want to do is set the starting point. You can see the XY has not been set. I can press this button and now snap to this control point. And in order to add it to the map, if I'm happy with what we have here, I just press the add to map. This will add those features to the map. And what we can do now is I can press the show only active. So we can see that all the courses have been extracted. So this is the data that has been added. And you can see also, if you zoom in, they're all, of course, COGO enabled. So they have the symbology that also let us examine that everything was extracted properly. So, and if we look now on the preview here, since we filtered the data to only show the active record, we can more easily see how this would look like. While we're going through this, if you have any questions, feel free to either enter them in the Q&A area or in the chat. Maybe the chat is a bit more collaborative, so everybody can see that. So this was the first smooth sailing deed that we have. Let's go to another one. And of course, it saved a lot of time. This one has a point of commencement defined. So and it's also a TIFF. So let's now extend it. And I'm going to open that other one. And because it has a location defined, I don't have to zoom to any area because it will do it for me. So we are opening this deed, and you can see here immediately that it is displaying coordinates. And these coordinates are the same coordinates that you see on the bottom of the map. It's the display coordinates. If you want to see it in the state plane coordinate system, you can basically, you can see the XY are in state plane, and these are in lat long. So all you have to do is go to your map display unit and change it to to the same format, so they would match. We can see that there's 2 lines between the point of commencement to the point of beginning, and then there's a series of point of beginning in here. Because I'm filtering the data to show only the active record, it's actually the previous active record. We can see already a preview on the map that doesn't clutter with the existing data. And the same process applies here. We can preview it before we add it to the map, and then we just press add to map.
So Amir, there's a couple questions coming in. Do you want to take them now?
I'm going to show soon, unless I'm going to show them soon. So do you think I'm going to go show soon some deeds that work really well, and soon I'm going to start working on deeds that don't work so well. So do you think the questions that are there relate to deeds that don't work so well?
One from Sarah from HCAD. I notice it is not using the arc length for the curve information. Might be why there is a misclose. So I think that was on the previous one, right? On your previous example, you had a lot of curves. I didn't pay attention enough to see what it was actually using, if it was using arc length or chord length.
So I actually trust a deed with a bit of misclose more than I trust a deed that have 0 misclose sometimes, but because real measurements have some error embedded in them. I will doubt that. We can look into it, Sarah, but in general, sometimes the deed rounds some measurements, and that rounding can introduce some misclose, right? Because it's up to the second and not up to the, and the distance is to the hundredths. So that by itself can introduce some misclose, but we can look into it. COGO enabled line feature class always stores the data internally as arc length, but regardless if it was in the deed appeared in chord or delta angle and so on. And we do see sometimes that if a curve is defined by multiple means, some means are more accurate than the others. I hope this makes sense. So if we have both the chord length, the arc length, and the delta angle, all of those available, there's an order of choosing them such that we take the one that defines the highest accuracy. But so that's kind of a short answer. So the point of opening this deed was to show you that if there's a coordinate that defines a point of beginning or point of commencement, we will use it. We will zoom to the map. As you can see here, the map automatically zoomed to that location, so that also saved me time. And that's the point of this one. The next deed I would like to show, and the workflow would be the same, of course, add to map, and then you would continue your workflow from there. This deed has 2 parcels. So can we handle that? Can we identify that the deed has 2 parcels in it? And how would that look? So as you can see here on the top, there are 2 parcels. One parcel, the 0 misclose here, and parcel number 2, also with 0 misclose. They were both identified properly. Each parcel has its own commencement line, connection lines between the commencement point to the point of beginning. And the process, of course, for each one is the same. Each one can be added to the map individually. For each parcel, you define the start points individually as well. So that's another example of a deed that worked perfectly fine, and that's great. I think I have another example here. I don't remember what that is, but we'll see. I can zoom to the bookmark. Let's see what this one has to offer us. But that's in the smooth sailing compartment, so we know it's going to work. And I also know that it's going to work every time I open it, because we are not sending your data to some AI bot that tries to guess what to do every time you're sending the data. So we didn't take that approach because we saw that it sometimes hallucinates. It always gives an answer. Sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's right. So we preferred this approach for now, that always gives the correct answer. This one is another deed in another location. So it's 00, it's a PDF now as well. It ends with 206. So let's go to the map. Oh, I'm going to minimize COGO Reader for a bit. And we can still see it was this one here. I'm going to create a new record just for this one. And you can see how difficult it is to demo COGO Reader on a single screen. So the point of beginning is actually referencing this location. And I'm going to just set it here. And now I'm going to add it to my map. You can see also there's there's quite a few courses here as well. And I'm going to add it to the map. And if we show only active, I can close COGO Reader. You can see that all the courses have been extracted properly and are in the correct location. If there's a ground to grid correction, that maybe we didn't mention that, you make sure to set it first, because we will take that into account as we create the features in the map, right? Now, I know some of you have been asking us in deeds that do describe the combined scale factor to use that automatically. That's also something, it's a good idea, something we might want to do. But if you have ground to grid correction, make sure to define the ground to grid correction. As you know, you can define it from down here. And once defined, COGO Reader will respect that. Now we're going to move to the deeds that don't work so well. So let's see how we do there. So I'll open COGO Reader and show you a few more buttons. So
do you want to take another question?
Sure, then.
Any plans for line polygon easement documents?
If they describe a series of distances and directions and curves, we are interested. Send them over, and we want to look at them. And yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to read easements.
Whether it's describing a parcel or an easement, it's still legal descriptions that are defining it. So yep, it'll support that. Also from Mizuki, after the OCR portion is complete, it would be useful for the tool to show confidence uncertainty level to give us an idea of whether it's confident will be output or there's a potential for hallucinations.
So we don't hallucinate because we don't use a machine learning algorithm, an LLM, to derive the correct answer. So, and the confidence level is mostly done by looking at the misclose ratio, I think. And once you have entered the data to your data and integrated it, of course, you can, if you wanted to run this gray adjustment to see if there's any inconsistencies with the measurements and how they, the spatial accuracy of the data. So you can, of course, continue further with it if you wanted to. So here, before we go to the bed data or where it fails, here's another deed. That's kind of a deed. We can call it the Sweet 16 deed, because this one deed contains 16 parcels. So those parcels are not as complicated as the one we saw before with 30+ courses, but it's a lot of data to process. So it has many pages, of course, and it does a good job. So it takes a bit more time, but not enough time for us to take a coffee break. And it's now reading the COGO dimensions from the extracted text, identifying that there are 16 parcels here. And many of those deeds that I'm showing now, you can see here it's right away and right away widening and so on. So they do correlate to easements as well. So you can see up here that this one deed contains many parcels. So I can just go one by one and add them to the map. Now, there's another button here that you can see it's disabled, and we'll talk about that one soon. And the reason it's disabled is because we haven't set the starting point yet. So if you want to send these dimensions to the traverse and finish the job in the traverse pane, all you have to do is first set the starting point, and then these buttons will become enabled, and you can just throw them into the traverse, close COGO Reader, and finish there. We'll see that soon as well. So that's just to prove that COGO Reader can process multiple parcels in the single did. Now let's go to the fun part. And OCR correction needed. So let's start with this one, the 0111. We'll open this one. And it's a PDF. I changed the name just to know what's going on here. And we can see immediately in the map that it doesn't look very good. And we can see that the misclose also doesn't look very good. So let's look, and immediately as we look here, I can see that the distance didn't go through. It has a comma instead of a decimal point. So I can just start editing this information. I can also see, as I put the cursor on this area of the text, it automatically highlights the source document for me. I can see this is south 02 degrees, so it put a $sign here. That's coming from an OCR that failed here, so I can just remove that $sign. Same here, there's another $sign. While we like dollars, we don't want them here. And once we think we fixed everything, we can just press this refresh button, and this will read the COGO again and extract the dimensions over here. So the algorithm is looking for keywords like beginning or point of beginning, looking for the tense as well. So if those words were not properly OCR'd, that would also cause issues. So you can just basically review this, edit the data here. I again changed the comma into a decimal point in here. And then every time you think you're done, just press this button. Now, if you wanted to, you could also just delete data here, right? So if I think that all this data that is over here doesn't contribute anything to the OCR process, I can just go ahead and press it, select it, and delete it, and it will delete that portion of the text. That's one example. Another example is I can do the opposite, just select the text I'm interested in, and then select everything and copy paste. So I only have the extracted portion of the text that I'm interested in. Now, let's say that this didn't work, and I still want to finish the job in my traverse file. What I can do is, again, I'll dislodge it a bit down here. Let's see if I have a bookmark for this did pre-created. So I don't think so. So I'm just gonna stay here in this location. But what I'm gonna do is create a new record for us to work with, so we can filter out easily the data only for this one. And I'm just going to press show only active record, which is nothing. And for this demo purposes, I don't know where this, I think actually I know where it is, but we're not gonna spend time. I'm just gonna place a point of beginning over here. And this allows me now to send all my data to the traverse. So I can basically press this button, and all the dimensions appear here. I can close COGO Reader, and I can pick up my work exactly from here to correct the data. So this is useful if you ever did that, like I said, was 90% correct and then had some exception or some complicated piece. You still want to use all the good extracted courses, and then just modify the pieces that fail. So that was one example of a failing deed, and I'm sure you'll get better at this than me. As you start working, you'll also identify what things make it fail. We already know, for example, that some curves, I think we did this one that was a bound description, so it failed on the bounds. Did I open that one before? No, that's a different one. So let's have a look at that. So in here we see only 2 courses, so something is wrong. And there's a distance that doesn't get picked up. So here we see a $sign again, and instead of we get a British pound instead of a E. You can see here that it's an east. So I just change this into east, and I can, as I do that, I can just press this button and see how much we advanced. That also looks good. A distance of so and so. But in here, sometimes it also gets the degree, minutes, seconds wrong. So those are also useful. Here there's a $0.07, so that should be 57. So just change that to a 5, and that's northeast, so that should be fine. And we can press the refresh again, and as you can see, we solved the problem, and there's 0 misclose now, and it looks good over here. All we have to do is set the starting location and add it to the map. So that's another example where OCR failed, but we were able to recover it by modifying the text in the middle. So there was a quick demo. I'm gonna switch back to slides a bit.
You want to take a question?
Of course.
When you click add to map, does that create a seed? And where does that feature get saved?
Okay, good question. So when you press add to map, it just adds. You can set the template. I'll show it again. You can set the template up here. Sorry, on the COGO Reader. Let's open COGO Reader. So open one of the deeds again. Let's do the one we did before. So it's a PDF. And you can see that there are templates here, right? So if I had multiple templates for connection lines, I could choose which one. I could also choose the feature templates for my parcel lines. If I have multiple ones, it will honor that. And when you press add to map, it will add those using that template to your map. So since you have an active record, it will associate those lines with the active record, which is what we used here to allow us to filter the data to only see the features in the map that belong to the active record. So that was useful to do. And then you can basically follow the same workflow, which is to create a seed, hit build, and you have all your lines, parcel, points, all associated to the correct record. So that would be the process. We basically accelerate the process of creating lines instead of using the traverse one by one by typing them. COGO Reader does it for you in a single click, add to map.
I'm going to ask you one more, Amir, because I think it's an important one. Does COGO Reader only function in the context of parcel fabric, or can it be used for general features like easement zoning and other boundaries?
Okay, so one of the things with the parcel fabric is, although the name parcel is in the name of the parcel fabric, parcels can be anything that describes land, even water. So you can use it for your lots, simultaneous conveyance, tax parcels, encumbrances, PLSS features, and
leases.
so on. So leases, leases on the water, leases on the land, unit, condominium units, and so on. So it's really parcel in the broader term, and certainly we have many organizations, including Department of Transportations, that use the parcel fabric to manage the right-of-ways along those, along the right-of-ways or railroads and so on. So parcel fabric is not only for the the parcel in the. You can use it for easement. That's a shorter answer. Some tips with COGO Reader. Use dual monitors. Create the record first. That was helpful because then we can press the show only active and we can see the previous shows better. Zoom to your work area before opening the deed. So I was just randomly going through a batch of deeds that we received from Harris County Appraisal District. Thank you, HCAD again. So, and sometimes I didn't have the documents to even find the point of beginning or point of commencement. So that is something, of course, that they have access to. In order to gain trust that COGO Reader does the right thing, look at the misclose ratio. It's really obvious when you get a misclose of 1:1, 1:4 that something went wrong. Start with simple deeds in English from the US, and G just stands for garbage in, garbage out. Anything that is garbage in the source documents, so to speak, from OCR perspective can cause issues. We are trying to do a better job with those, but we know that watermarks, especially the watermarks that have an outline, let's say it says draft, but it doesn't say draft with a field, it just has an outline. That can cause a lot of issues. And there are a few tools out there that called watermark removers. Some of them do. None of them does a really fantastic job, but they might be helpful. If you have a rotate deed like the one below here, COGO Reader right now will not do a good job with that. If it's slightly misoriented, basically they fed the line, the document to the scanner with an angle, that's still okay. But completely 90 degrees or upside down, that probably will not work. Here you can see a watermark. This is actually the watermark that's not that bad. The worst one is where you only have the outline of those words. That can cause some OCR issues. We're talking about road ahead with COGO Reader. There's a lot of things we plan and can do with COGO Reader. So we plan to improve the OCR. So there will be less mistakes in the OCR. So for example, it's pretty obvious we saw some dollar sign and pound signs instead of south and east. We can probably do better to understand this is a direction and there shouldn't be any dollar signs over there. So it's probably an S for south and not a dollar. So we can try to do a better job there. We can improve the COGO extraction. This is actually where we need your help. In cases where the OCR did a fantastic job, the text is perfectly okay, but we screwed up creating the COGO, we would love to get those deeds from you. And if you encounter those, then put in the chat a link where you can just create a folder and put those deeds. That's one way, and we will look into them for the next release, or maybe even a service pack on 3.5. Or you can just contact technical support and submit that, because that's a bug we want to solve. And the preview we plan to improve. We also plan to show partial courses. Right now, if we only extracted the direction but not the distance, or vice versa, you wouldn't see any entry in the grid of the extracted COGO, but we plan to change that. We want to show you that we know there's a course there, we saw the fence, but something was missing there. So that could help you fix it. And of course, we are fixing bug, and we'll fix more bugs in the COGO extraction piece. There's also 2 crashes that we found that will be delivered with 3.3 in about a month from now. And we'd love to get your feedback. And in order to get your feedback, we are going to launch a poll questions right now. So I think I need to stop sharing for that. So I'll stop sharing my screen for a second and ask the 7 questions here that I'm gonna launch and see. So I'm gonna go quickly. I think you can see all the questions. The first question, have you already used COGO Reader? A simple question, yes, no. And we'd like to know how many of you here used it and how many have not. If you did use it, does COGO Reader save you time? So when we implemented COGO Reader, we use some state deeds from some states more than others. So it could be that your deeds from your state are written a bit differently. And because we didn't use those deeds, we are not doing quite a good job in your specific state. So this is something, of course, that we can improve on as well. Where could we put more effort? So some of the areas we mentioned: improve the OCR, improve the COGO extraction, improve the preview, and all the above. And it's all, there's no wrong answers here. POC stands for point of commencement, POB for point of beginning. Currently, we ask you to define only the location of one of those. And we'd like to know if you would like to define each one individually. So right now, if you have a description with a point of commencement, you will need to define the point of commencement. If the deed does not contain point of commencement, you'll have to define the point of beginning. So we'll see that. The next question is connection lines and parcel lines. Right now, we add them both to the map. Some of you might say we are not interested in the connection lines. We only want to see the features from the point of beginning, the parcel lines. So should we allow to add them individually? And then on the extracted COGO, today, if COGO Reader did a half job and you want to finish it, you can send it to the traverse. But some of you also ask, can I also edit the data in the extracted COGO instead of sending them to the traverse? So we do have a workaround, let's say, to fixing partially extracted dimensions by sending them to the traverse, but would you want to finish the job in COGO Reader? And the last question, I would like COGO Reader to work outside the parcel fabric because, and here's some funny answers and less funny answers, but again, it's multiple question, and we know some of you communicated to us that they want this feature to be available also outside of the parcel fabric. And I think, I don't know, Dan, can you see the poll answers, or everybody can see those?
Yeah, I can see them. I'm not sure if everybody can see them, but I think because I'm host, I'm definitely see them, and I have a button that says end poll. So I don't know if that's when everybody would see them.
Okay. So usually when Jason does this, he goes over the answers, but if you can already see them yourself, it makes less sense. I'll just go over the last one. I think what we see is that there's 37% that says migrating to the parcel fabric is hard, and 5% say all we need are polygons and topology. So what I'd like, these are the two top most answered questions is why we want COGO Reader outside of the parcel fabric. So, and there's also a few that are about to retire and they hate change. So we are jealous that you are about to retire, but we cannot help with that too much. And there's a few people that heard bad things about the parcel fabric. So I'm going to share my screen again. And what I want to do now is show you how easy it is to move to the parcel fabric. And some of you already started finding workarounds. So I'll move the poll here. And we'll talk about potential enhancements soon. And let me show you how quickly it is. Then if you can time me, I think this will happen in less than 5 minutes. So here I have a shapefile with some data. I'm going to add it to a new map. So just so you can see that this data is real. It's a sample data. So we're not going to sit here for a long time for 1 million parcels. And hopefully my machine will not die halfway. But here we can see amount of parcels, a sample. All we need to do is go to our geodatabase, a staging file, right click, say new feature dataset, step number 1. Give it a name, parcel editing would be 1. What special reference? I'm going to use the special reference of this data. So that was easy. All the feature classes underneath will assume the same special reference. Right click on that feature dataset, new parcel fabric. Give it a meaningful name. I have one called parcel fabric, but you can give it any name you want and press run. And this will create a parcel fabric, which is a data controller. It's like topology. It controls simple feature classes. The feature classes in a parcel fabric are simple feature classes, just like topology uses simple feature classes. The parcel fabric also creates a topology. So any one of you using a topology should not feel very different about a parcel fabric. This does not have a parcel type. I'm going to create a parcel type called easement here just because we talked about those, and I'm going to press run. This will create an easement parcel type and an easement polygon class and a line feature class. Those are, again, simple feature classes that are ready to go. That's it. Now, my easements don't have the correct schema as my source data. So what we can do is look at the fields that I have on my source data, and you can see that there's fields that came from HCAD, and I can do the same on my target, which are those easements data design fields. And in Pro is really quick and easy just to copy. I already have a name field. I don't need to copy that one, but all the rest I'm just going to copy and paste. I don't need just shape length, shape area, but the record name is useful. It's like the symbol, how to group parcels together. And I'm going to copy those fields, and I'm just going to paste them into this schema. So they are pasted, I save it, and this is how easy it is to extend any feature class with the fields we love and cherish. Of course, you can spend a week figuring out if you really need all of those fields, but that's not part of this demo. Now that we have the same schema, not exactly the same thing, but same fields, all I need to do is to append my source data to my target data. So we use a G processing tool that you all probably know very well, called append. And append is here. It asks for the target data set. These are those easements we created. I'm going to copy, drag and drop. The source data is here. And we are going to use the second option because the schemas are not identical, and press run. This will append the source data to the target, and it ran successfully. I can get rid of this shapefile, which we don't like too much. It's very primitive data set, and we can add the parcel fabric to the current map. This will add all the data. We want the editing layers here, so we will get the default editing layers. It already knows that there's a name and an area, and all the good stuff will already predefined, so I can focus maybe on a bit of symbology and labeling, but it's pretty much will be ready to go. If we zoom here, we can see the parcels have been appended properly. If we want to, we can press this magic button in 3.5, which will show us how the data really looks. And since it's a shapefile, there's no true curves here. So now we can talk about, we migrated the data, but we actually want to improve it a bit. So I can easily improve this data by running this tool. It's a geoprocessing tool called Simplify by Straight Line and Circular Arc, or SLACA. And I'm going to specify a tolerance here, 0.5, maybe foot, international feet or US feet, almost the same. And I don't like very small radiuses, and I don't like very shallow radiuses. So I can specify some limits and press OK. And this will generate true curves for this entire sample data set. And it will probably run much faster on your computer than mine, as it is about to die. So it ran. And now if we were to press this magic 3.5 button, you will see true curves in orange. And that's wonderful. So it did a great job. And the last step to migrate your data is to group your parcels to the source they came from. And the source is called a record. So I can just create parcel records. And if you remember, there was a field called record name. This could be your subdivision name. Any name that can be associate the data to where it came from. So I'm going to use that field. You can also use an arcade expression if it's built from multiple fields, and press run. This will associate the parcel to the record and create a record geometry. So I can click on every parcel here, select it, and from this moment on, if I look at the attributes, I can navigate and see, oh, this came from Walden on Lake Houston subdivision. I can even press this button to visualize the records. This is the topology. Here are the records, and we can see where all these legal records occurred. They could also overlap, of course. Now, for those of you that are used to topology, the parcel fabric topology is just a standard topology. So there's nothing special about it. You can go to your catalog, you can define your own rules, you can modify the rules. Please don't touch the cluster tolerance, that's never a good idea. But you can even add feature classes that are not controlled by the parcel fabric to this topology if you chose to. So as you can see, data migration is a breeze. And once you're done, you can start editing this data. And basically, that was everything to it.
So in about 4 minutes, Amir, you had it in the fabric. You had the fabric built and in the map. At 6:35, you were already talking about the topology. So, less than 7 minutes, you had the fabric built. Plus, you did some data cleanup in there too.
That's true. Thank you, Dan, for measuring. Yeah. So it's not that painful, and we think anyone can do it. Of course, you'll start asking yourself questions about which fields to keep and which fields to throw and what parcel types to have and et cetera. But these are just same questions you would ask yourself for your data anyhow, because again, those are just simple feature classes. So potential enhancements for COGO Reader. Some of you have been asking to extract point attributes. So if it says to the iron pin, we would love to know about it, but we would also like to write it somewhere. So to the points. So that means, should COGO Reader create points? Where would this information sit? Iron pin in a field called description or in the name field? Should the user be able to do some field mapping to say where that information will reside? So some questions here. Apply image enhancements before OCR, for example, sharpen. So sometimes OCR can improve if you do some image pre-processing. So right now we don't do that. You can do it in your own software outside of Parcel Fabric and then save the image and bring it in. But maybe we should put it in there. We have the library to do it inside the installation of ArcGIS Pro. Define page margins before OCR. So that would basically, for those deeds that have a lot of garbage data on the sides, maybe scribble, some handwritten scribbling and some border lines, you can maybe define the margins. Extract text paragraph formatting. So some deeds that I showed today were really nicely formatted. Each course appeared in its own mini paragraph and were very easy to read. But we do know that we have those deeds where it's just this huge blob of text. It's frustrating to read. We could potentially, in the extracted text portion, press a style button that would format it such that every sentence, for example, would break into its own mini paragraph in the middle area. So we can do that. If that's interesting, let us know about it. Another thing we were thinking is to enumerate the labeled courses. So we already enumerate the extracted courses, but we can also enumerate them in the preview. We can even enumerate them in the extracted text. We can put the same number. So maybe that would help the matching between extracted COGO text and the source document. Another thing that was, we already know people asked, is to be able to configure units. Maybe your deed is in varas or chains, or it has both. It has chains and feet, so US feet and feet. So somewhere to be able to configure the units would be probably useful as well. Read and set combined scale factor. We talked about that for the ground to grid correction. Extract text from deed to create an active record. So maybe I can create the active record in COGO Reader itself after it read the information, it can maybe even try to guess where the name of the record and the recorder's number, if you're using that. Or maybe you just highlight a piece of text and say create active record, and it will use that as the record name. Add my own rules by configuring key words. So as you've seen, we use certain key words to know where's the point of beginning, where's the next course with the word thence, for example. So some things are easy, but sometimes it gets more complicated. It might also be different from one state or one even county to the other. So maybe letting you also add additional keywords to that list. More enhancement, enter a word in the text to break between parcels and commencement point and POB. So sometimes we fail to identify where the commencement lines end and where the point of beginning starts. So imagine you just enter the text POB, and that's basically a known word for COGO Reader to know I should break here from here down its parcel lines before it was commencement lines. Make COGO Reader available on the web browser. So yeah, that's something that we think can be a game changer, especially if we expose it on ArcGIS Online, such that it is made available to people like the DID examiners or even title companies outside of your organization that can use it to basically see the parcel geometry and verify that everything closes properly. So there's nothing, we wrote it in implemented the software in such a way that we could do that. So something that we are thinking about. Pasting an image from the clipboard. So it is a very long thing. Maybe I can just take a screenshot of a specific area and then paste it into the clipboard, from the clipboard to the COGO Reader. Allow me to edit the extracted COGO. We talked about that. And this is from Mr. Ford. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, and he invented the car. So I think I put that in just to kind of, we got to a point with Traverse where people wanted this enhancement and that enhancement to make data entry faster. But instead of trying to get the tweak Traverse to do a few more tricks, maybe COGO Reader could be that new pathway that can improve entry in a completely different way. This ties to what we've been hearing in the user conference and what we've been hearing in this meetup. The biggest complaint about COGO Reader we've been hearing so far is that it doesn't work outside of the parcel fabric. And you saw the answers to the poll questions. Sometimes we talked with some of you and you just admitted that you're a lone ranger doing multiple tasks, not just parcel, and you just don't have the bandwidth to also worry about moving to the parcel fabric. So hopefully you've seen today that moving to the parcel fabric is easy and you can do it yourself. And if you think it's too complicated, we have this bring your own data meetups where we can work with you, handheld basically, to help you move in. So hopefully that is the demo we saw. Some Q&A, this is a good time, but some questions people ask, does my data get sent to the cloud? No, nothing gets sent. We don't own your data. We don't see your data. We don't know about your data. So if you have any concerns about security and your data, and nothing gets sent anywhere. I think if you check during installation that you participated in the end user thing, all we know is that somebody ran COGO Reader. We don't know who, where. We just see that it's being how many times it's being used. That's the level of information that we get. Does COGO Reader work outside of the parcel fabric? As we all seen, no. Do we have plans to make it work outside of the parcel fabric? Only if we can be convinced that it will make people more efficient but we think that managing parcel is done best and most efficient in the parcel fabric. We offer many other capabilities apart from COGO Reader to make your data much more efficient, to maintain your historic parcels, parcel lineage, and so forth. So we don't see any reason why we would like to go back to ArcInfo days, where people put text on the map and use the GIS system as a basically CAD drafting system. We don't want to promote that, of course. Feedback. If you have any enhancement requests, including those lists that you've seen here, feel free to put an idea on the community site. If you encounter any bugs, like obvious, like a crash, of course, please submit it to technical support. We want to know about it. If it failed to read the OCR properly, we are continuing to work and trying to improve that. But if there's garbage in, garbage out, we'll be limited how much we can OCR it properly. We also compared our OCR with many other OCRs like ChatGPT and others, and we saw that we're doing a better job. So we know our OCR is pretty good, but of course we want to make it even better, because we know exactly what we're reading. We know it's not a receipt. We know it's a deed. Failure to extract COGO. If you get the text right, but you don't get the right COGO, these ones are the one we like to know about the most, especially if they are not the esoteric ones. If they are the common ones, we'd like to know about them. We'd like to have the deed, and we'd like to fix it. When we fix it, we can potentially even deliver it through a service pack. So the more common that issue is, we know there's an issue with non-tangent chord bearings. We might potentially deliver that in one of the service packs. ArcGIS Pro 353 will have already 2 fixes for 2 known crashes. One crash has to do with resizing the text area, and the second crash has to do with specific deeds that cause an issue that we know about. So 353 that will be released in about a month will contain those fixes, and more fixes are coming. If you want to learn more about COGO Reader, of course, like everything in ArcGIS Pro is very well documented. So there's a full documentation about COGO Reader. This meetup is recorded, and we will take the recording and we will post it on the Parcel Fabric community video board. So if you want to see it again, or you want to forward a link to somebody else to see it, you can do it that way. And we'll probably have more resources as time progresses, and we also introduce new enhancements. And with that, maybe if there's any other questions, that'd be a great time to take those.
Sure. From Heather, Amir, not really a question, but more of a suggestion. Being able to paste from the clipboard or define what we want the OCR to read would be really helpful. That's a good suggestion. There was another question: does it have to work with closed traverses, or will it work with an open traverse? And it'll work also with an open traverse. Mizuki had one. Let me get back up to the top. She had a pretty good one. If you accidentally close the COGO Reader before adding traverse to the map, how do I recall the window? Do I need to OCR the whole document again? I think today, yes, that'd be the thing. You'd have to re-OCR it.
Yeah, we don't persist it because it's so fast to read it again, basically, right? So that's the reason you can come the next day and just read the document again in a few seconds, and you're back to where you were.
And then Alex was asking if you could traverse this into, or if you can export this into a traverse file. Ralph did answer saying yes, but I just wanted to bring that up so that everybody, in case they didn't see that question.
Yes, and you do it by first sending it to the traverse, and second, in the traverse pane, you can save it as an ArcMap traverse text file. Why you would do that, I don't know, but if you love traverse text files floating around in your system, feel free to keep it there.
We have many customers that save every traverse file. They do.
I know. They love it.
We have many.
Yeah.
Sarah had another one. What if it left out an entire call? It's in the center pane, but it did not get added to the traverse pane. So wouldn't that be a matter of just go ahead?
Yeah, you send it to the traverse, you right click where it should go and say add a new row. in the traverse pane, and you enter it manually there. And that's it. It's the same as you forget to, when you're reading and entering a did in the traverse and you skip one line and get back to it afterwards.
Let's see. Dan asked, are there any issues with manually entering Z coordinates?
Z coordinates. Where would you, so COGO Reader, it's a good question. COGO Reader, do we have dids with Z coordinates in them? That's my first.
I have yet to see one.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they don't exist, but I have yet to see one.
Okay. You can select any features, including the features COGO Reader added to the map, and set the Z value on them, right? So if you wanted to. But if there's dids with Z values, we'd love to know about that.
At what version is COGO Reader available? Simple. 3.5.
Yep, 3.5.
Non-tangent curves are not currently supported. That was a question.
We know we don't do a very good job with those, with some of those, and you're muted, Dan, or I'm muted?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. We know that we have issues with those, and we are working to fix those. But if you have more examples, please send them in so we can make sure we solve all the use cases with non-tangent curves. As you all know, some of those dids are not that easy to read, right? And luckily, we have Raphael, who is a licensed surveyor in multiple states. It keeps growing every year now, by the way. So he is really instrumental with helping us read those difficult dids to make sure we understand them correctly.
I think that's about all the questions. A lot of comments, but that's the most of the questions. And we'll go through all the comments as well. But I think those were all the questions. Unless anybody wants to add any.
Yeah. And don't forget, there's a folder in the chat that Dan entered. So if you have dids that fail and you'd like us to see them, you can just upload your dids in that location.
Oh, there was another good question. Can you bulk process? So I'll read the whole thing. I understand there's a fair amount of need and built-in manual adjustments necessary for errors in OCR, but can you bulk process deeds, or is that considered a potential enhancement?
So the Parcel Fabric does have an extensive SDK, both in Python, JavaScript, and .NET. We can expose this functionality as part of our SDK if this was needed. At this point of time, we would probably not consider it yet until we feel that it's stable enough from a capability perspective to be exposed as SDK. So that is a pattern you see around ArcGIS Pro in general. First, with a new feature, you wait a few releases till you know you get it right before you try to expose an SDK for it. And once we do, we'd also like to have a discussion with anyone wanting to automate it to better understand how they would like to automate that. We know also that the ArcGIS Pro SDK team would like to just take the OCR piece and make it an independent component outside Exposing Pro for different use cases outside of land records. So that's a bit on the extendability and automation.
And there was another good suggestion or ask. Can the parcel template be set to honor the template that was used to the last template that was used, like with the traverse? So in other words, if I pick parcel, the next time I bring it up, have it pick parcel again, or if I did easements, have it pick up easements.
It should already do that.
Okay.
Persist, like the traverse pane, it should persist it once you set.
So it's not doing that. Definitely log a ticket on.
Yep.
Yep. I think that was all the questions that came in. Like I said, a lot of comments.
So we would just like to say thank you for attending this session. We hope it helped you, and we hope we can work together to improve COGO Reader even beyond this point to where it needs to be for your jurisdiction, right?
It's still evolving.
Still evolving, like everything in ArcGIS Pro, right? We listen and we improve based on your needs. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in the next meetup that will be on, what is the subject?
I think it's August 12th.
And what is, and that's data migration,
I think that one's record-driven workflows.
Record-driven workflows. So if you are interested in Parcel Fabric and curious, there's another session. We'll show you now how to do merge splits, bring CAD data, all the fun stuff that is around maintaining your Parcel Fabric, your parcels, basically.
All right. Thank y'all. Y'all take care.
Bye-bye.